ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to do this with not the normal hype and BS because I'm just going to speak sincerely from the heart. It's really, really great to be here with my old buddy, Andy Laties, author of Rebel Bookseller, an influential book that has inspired many modern day independent bookstores. This guy's a veteran of the anti-corporate, anti-conglomerate, anti-monopoly. This guy's a firebrand. He's a radical. He's a literary genius of his own sort. Andy Laties, welcome to Monks and Punks.
Thank you, Sander. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, it's so great to have you on the show, Andy. I've been meaning to do this for a long time. We've known each other now for about 21, 22 years. I had this crazy idea to do this Vox Pop coffee house bookstore, and I was living in Taos, New Mexico at the time with Holly Anderson, and you just suddenly, I don't know where you came from, but you were suddenly my Yahoo Mail buddy. You were like always there with an instant response. Remember those days 22 years ago?
Yes, I still sometimes go on and email JAG where I'm just sending a lot of emails to somebody, and that happened with you and me.
Right. Right. And so we refined the Vox Pop idea together and got it off, got it off the ground. And then you introduced me to the people that had the Instabook machine. And so we brought in remember that? The Instabook machine. Was that
Yes.
Bernie Rath?
The Instabook machine. Yes.
Yes. So we were able to print books on the spot and then, but these days, to zoom up to the present, you are not only the famous author of Rebel Bookseller, and we'll cover Rebel Bookseller in a minute, but right now, you are obviously in the middle of your new project, which is not so new, but your new location, this giant new location. I've been there. It's in Easton, Pennsylvania, which is in Eastern Pennsylvania, and it's the Book and Puppet Store. So you want to maybe give us
I'll give you a tour. Yes.
Excellent.
Book and Puppet Company. Yes. In fact, here we go. I can give you this was a Thai restaurant, and it's a pretty large space.
It's huge. I know. You got the Museum of Money in the back, and
we got it we got it last September, and I'm gonna take you outside so you can see the full.
Now remember, this is a podcast as well as a YouTube video, so you got to narrate.
Outside of Book and Puppet Company, and it's their Book and Puppet Company Museum of Money. And we are in Easton, Pennsylvania, beautiful downtown Easton, Pennsylvania. There's Center Square in the distance down Northampton Street. And this way is the free bridge over to Phillipsburg. And we are outside of Book and Puppet Company, your neighborhood community bookstore, local independent bookstore. And as we come in the front door here, you'll see this postcard rack. Do any of these postcards look familiar, Sander? I arranged for this VisionWorks postcard stuff to be at Vox Pop. I used to drive boxes of radical postcards down and restock our postcard rack, and I got that right here. See, look at that.
Nice. Looks familiar.
In our America, love wins.
Yes.
Yes, and so I still stock that stuff here. And here we are with Book and Puppet Company. We have lots of wonderful, fun puppets for the kids. And I run this in partnership with my wife, Gaia Abraxas, formerly Rebecca Migdal. These are her cards.
Oh, Rebecca has changed her name to Gaia Abraxas.
Yes, she's now Gaia.
Wow.
And we sell coins and banknotes from around the world. So you can get all this good money for just $1. We have lots of great children's books. I've been a children's bookseller my whole life, and puppets, and see this wonderful, what a good thing to have in your community, your local independent bookstore. And here we have bumper stickers to express the important ideas that you might want to let the world know what you think.
Yeah.
Put it on your car, put it on your laptop.
I like that one. Fascism is capitalism in decay. Science doesn't give a fuck what you believe.
Support local music.
Okay. Love is our sole purpose.
And we sell
SOUL, soul. I love it.
We sell pride flags. Here's our pride flag. And And then that's the children's section. Then we come back here and we have, look at all this. We have a whole big room for running events. We have lots of space for concerts and political meetings and discussions. And we have, so anyway, that's Book and Puppet Company.
Great, man. Great.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you great. And tell us about the event you just did tonight.
So we published the memoir of Melba Tolliver, who was, she lives nearby. She was for decades an important anchorwoman and reporter in New York City. And she was the first Black American to anchor a network television show in 1967.
Oh, wow.
And we published this book, Accidental Anchorwoman. And she is now the host of a bi-weekly community conversation that we have here in the bookstore, where we talk about reframing our mind to the language and the thought practices of the reactionary forces in this country. And
I saw the post. I really liked a lot about the post, and it reminded me of that you guys were kind of rereading the new edition of George Lake's book, which is all about framing and
yes.
Andy, I think it's better to try to stay still, Andy.
Okay, here it is.
George, good. A visual. Good. Don't think of an elephant. George Lakoff, not Lakey. Lakey is somebody else. But yeah, great. Lakoff. Right. Thank you. Thank
you. We're trying to play our part in helping people understand, how to engage with this moment.
Yeah.
And that means they should be reading good books. Here's Bill Ayers. Yeah. He was here last fall.
Right.
When freedom is the question, abolition is the answer. So,
great. Great. And the Tim Snyder book on fascism keeps on coming up. So you just showed me that book, and yeah, great. Yeah. So let's sit down for a second. I know indie bookstores are in the news these days. There's a new CEO of Barnes & Noble, Mr. Daunt, and I know you think he has ripped off a lot of your best ideas from Rebel Bookseller. We'll get into that. And I know your acquaintance, Ms. McNally, Sarah McNally of McNally Jackson, which is a new-ish, not really new, but a pretty well-established indie chain of 5 stores in New York City, the McNally Jackson bookstores. I know I sent you this article here. Sarah McNally's book club from the latest issue of New York Magazine. So I thought maybe we could talk. So first of all, for those that haven't ever heard you say, oh, Mr. Daunt, the CEO of Barnes & Noble, took some of the best ideas, possibly from me, possibly from your book, Rebel Bookseller. So make the case. What are some of his ideas that he's doing at Barnes & Noble these days that are similar to your past strategies that you've told the world about?
Well, okay, James Daunt is an outstanding bookseller. He has an independent chain in London.
Still does, yeah.
Yeah, and terrific bookstores. And during the crisis that Waterstones, the largest bookstore chain in England, went through about 12, 15 years ago, he was brought in and to help to save Waterstones. And he developed a relationship with a Russian oligarch who was living in England. And this fellow funded the process of buying Waterstones, and Daunt turned Waterstones around by decentralizing the buying. And this is something that I proposed for the chain bookstores for Barnes & Noble in Rebel Bookseller. I must say that I was being humorous. I did not think that Barnes & Noble would ever decentralize. I challenged them and I said, Barnes & Noble, you will never be successful at competing with independent bookstores because we have local buyers and we know our communities and we buy specially for each location. And you have centralized buying and you foist your national buying strategy on your local stores. And so we have that over you. And so when I saw that James Daunt decentralized the buying at Waterstones and gave authority to his local managers to buy, that made me suspicious. Now, this is not to say that there isn't such a thing as, convergent evolution. And maybe he had the idea on his own. He was an independent bookstore, but, Rebel Bookseller had come out 6 years before, and I knew that I had readers in England. So it occurred to me that he might have read it. And then, 12 years later, fast forward, the Russian oligarch got into trouble and needed to exit the investment environment of Britain. And this caused a crisis for Waterstones, and Daunt solved the problem. He found a new investor to take over the ownership of Waterstones, and it's this reactionary billionaire, Paul Singer, in the United States, goes by the name of Elliott Advisors Hedge Fund, good friend of Samuel Alito. He brought him on fishing trips. And so there's this American right-winger billionaire who owns Waterstones. And when Barnes & Noble was unable to figure out how to solve their problems in around 2020, Daunt proposed to Elliott and to Paul Singer that they buy Barnes & Noble in the United States too. That's what happened. And Daunt is a remarkably energetic and skillful individual, came over to the United States and implemented the same strategy with Barnes & Noble that he had implemented with Waterstones, which is essentially fire most of the central office, decentralize the buying. And so the buying has been farmed out to regions. It's not true that every Barnes & Noble buys its own books, not by any means, although that is what his PR campaign says. But they have substantially devolved buying to regions. And so, yes, I take credit for that, and probably wrongly, because he's
You're very humble. That's good. That's good.
Perfectly capable.
But let's just say it's a possibility. It's a possibility that that your book was very well respected. I think Publishers Weekly called it a must read. It was well received.
Yes.
And let's back up and give everybody a quick crash course history of your book. So you helped me out with Vox Pop 20 years ago, and then about a couple years into collaborating on Vox Pop, you had this manuscript. On the front cover was a picture of you butt naked taking a piss on a Barnes & Noble or something. You're peeing on something, and the working title of the book was Screw the Chains. But I and my publisher, as a publisher and as a book packager, and as somebody who's trying to make a bridge between the radical author and the book buying public, I said, Andy, let's work on this a little bit. Maybe we don't need you butt naked on the front cover.
I think it would have been a better cover, actually. In retrospect, I'm sorry that we didn't use the provocative and inflammatory, and plus, my friend Bernie, who was the former executive director of the American Booksellers Association, wrote me an email, and he said, "Nice butt."
Nice butt. Yeah. Well, anyway, Screw the Chains was the gist of the book, but we retitled it Rebel Bookseller, and it was a little bit catchier, a little bit less. I don't know. I hope I didn't do the book a disservice, but I feel like I like the cover that we had, and the zoom up to the modern age. The book is back in print as of a couple years ago with Seven Stories Press. So Vox Pop was the original publisher of that book, and then Seven Stories reprinted it with a new chapter, updating it for the modern. And you gave yourself a new subtitle, which is almost like a book in itself. Rebel Bookseller: Why Indie Businesses Represent Everything You Want to Fight For, from free speech to buying local to building communities. Andrew Laties. So what's in the new edition that's not in the old edition?
Okay, well, of course, we had a new introduction and a new afterwards of Ed Morrow, who had been the president of the American Booksellers Association, Bill Ayers, the professor of education and co-founder of the Weather Underground, contributed. And also I wrote a chapter about Amazon, because we felt that I had not attacked Amazon sufficiently. So I did my attack on Amazon in the 11th chapter.
Excellent. Excellent. But this book, I mean, one of your even one of your you only have like one bad review, and it's on Amazon, by the way, but the one bad review actually has some great information in it that in one of these newer chapters, you talk about this book changing people's lives. And so we know there's people like Jessica Stockton Bagnulo, who's the founder of Greenlight Bookstore. And she said, I remember her telling me that this book was influential and sparked her or inspired her to start her own independent bookstore. How many other independent bookstores do you think this book has influenced or inspired?
Well, I don't know. I mean, we sold thousands of copies of it. I mean, I think that it sold probably 7 or 8 thousand copies, and then it's been available for free basically on Internet Archive. So it's been part of the dialogue about book selling over the last 20 years. And I think what's significant about it is that it was published in 2005. You published it in 2005 out of Vox Pop at a moment when the conventional wisdom was that independent book selling was doomed and that nobody should open an independent bookstore. And it appeared at that time, and so it was what was available to people who were thinking about opening an independent bookstore at a moment when everyone was saying don't do it. And this book said, yes, you have to do it. We have to open independent bookstores. And the argument that I make about independent book selling is that there will always be people who feel like they want to open a bookstore and they ought to do it. And it's a grassroots refusal to accept the idea that corporate overlords are destined to rule us all. And I think that anytime that there's this a message in society that tyranny is inevitable, the totalitarian victory is here, and just live with it, go with it, that it's inevitable. We have to, each of us individually has to do our thing, and we have to ignore that sort of message. And it's always a moment to act against this kind of message in business, in personal life, this political context. My God, there's so many different arenas where this is important. And the forces of reaction will attempt to render us inactive, and we have to be active, not reactive. We have to take action. And so that's the argument that Rebel Bookseller makes, is that go forth, carry out your creative impulse, and you sort of follow the opportunity as it unfolds. You cannot know exactly what opportunity will emerge, but if you act, if you simply do something, just make a move, then the world will shift, and the way will open. That's this kind of the message.
It's true, folks, and I've seen it myself with Vox Pop, not really knowing what I was doing, but getting a space and building it out myself with, me and my very pregnant wife at the time, and carpenters from Craigslist, and you know and then suddenly getting open and having a coffee house and a bookstore. And I think we opened it up 20 years ago for something around 50K, like mostly friends and family investors, but not a we're thinking it's going to cost about 250K this time around to open it up, and also have some money to wait to get profitable. But let's talk a little bit about, if you were opening up Vox Pop this in 2025 in Brooklyn, New York, what are some activist titles? You already showed us a couple of them, Tim Snyder, Against Tyranny. What are some activist titles that you think every independent bookseller today should stock?
Well, yeah, you're right. I have been showing you some. I think that I think it's important to pay attention to who's in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And in the case that you're describing in Brooklyn, there are people who will come to you. And I would say that the easiest approach and the wisest approach is to ask the customers, ask the people that walk through the door what they want you to carry, what kinds of things they want you to carry. One of the things that I've been very interested in this store is that there's a lot of people who are interested in witchcraft. And
Ah,
so you can see that I have developed this whole section now. Maybe you can't see it. I'm just I'm carrying stuff about divination and the Kybalion and, you know,
Freemasons,
yeah,
current objects.
I think that it's important to encourage people with their uh, sort of countercultural or delegitimized or risky uh, uh, ideas about what's really going on. Why not?
Well,
So
you
that
know, Andy,
I would say both the political stuff, but also the alternative spirituality.
yeah.
You know,
Every time I buy a book on magic, magic is redefined by the author. Like magic is like it's a really articulate, clear definition, but it's very different each book. You know, magic is a shift in perception, or magic is the energy body and us interacting with our physical energy body. So magic is sort of like part of the qigong and tai chi world, or and those are just two perspectives on magic. So I think magic is coming back, and I applaud your audience and your book buying supporters there. So
I just want to pay attention to
yeah,
what people are curious about and what they want, what direction they want to follow. That's my job as a bookseller. I would like to and when people special order a book from me, I almost always pick up a second copy for the store. So I allow if people feel strongly enough that they want something. I would like to maybe their neighbor would like a
yeah,
second book. I would like the inventory to be shaped by the people that live in my neighborhood. I want to be their voice also. And I tell people that. I say, what do you think I should carry here? What do you think people would like to read? Everyone will tell you what book
great.
they think you should be carrying and what section should be larger. I have this speculative fiction section, which is a category that I didn't even know about before, but it's, a combination of sci-fi and fantasy and dystopian and, that's magical realism. That is a huge section for me now.
Hmm.
Speculative fiction. And again, this is people really trying to break free of the lies and the sort of conventional constraints that the society seems to want to inflict on every individual, toe the line, get a job, go for security. Lots of people feel that this is just garbage. How can I live my life this way? And so these kinds of categories of books, if you kind of lean into them and learn, well, who are the major authors and who's everybody reading and who are the unknowns, who are kind of cult characters in the history of this genre of literature, put that on the shelf and ask people. That's how I recommend you stock a bookstore.
Great. And you get the feedback from your audience or your patrons. You get that feedback through the web or through a suggestion box or just one-on-one, face-to-face, or how does that happen?
Well, I'm just always talking to people.
Yeah, right. So it's not really a website thing for you as much as it is just talking to people.
Well, you can go to our website, bookandpuppet.com, and you can see what we have in stock. We have about 8,000 titles in stock right now. But, there's 20 million books in print right now, and you can order any of them from us, and I can get it usually in a couple of days. It's
Right.
crazy. There's 20 years ago, there were 2 million books in print, which is a huge number. Now there are 20 million books in print, and it's because of the rise of these self-publishing platforms. So many people are just bypassing the gatekeepers of the publishing industry and putting things up as print on demand on the web.
Right.
And
Right.
whether this counts as having your book published is irrelevant right now. Most of them can be obtained by the local independent bookstore. We have a relationship with the Greater Lehigh Valley Writers Group, which is mostly self-published authors. I have a shelf. This
Huh.
bookcase is devoted entirely to local authors, and most of them are either self-published or they work with a press where they just sort of pay to have their book published. And in our book festival, we do lots of programs with these authors, and people can know, if they can tell people, where can I find your book? You can go to Book and Puppet. And if you're, my whole strategy with the local authors is to encourage them to join the Greater Lehigh Valley Writers Group. It's a very supportive organization that has workshops, and people get together to read their drafts to each other. They offer suggestions to help each other out to improve their books. And so I love having this relationship with local authors who are sidestepping the publishing industry.
Yeah. And you're getting most of your books through Ingram, or what distributors are you using these days?
I do get books from Ingram, but I also buy books directly from publishers.
Oh, okay. Great. And are you also still buying remainders from like different remainders buyers, sellers?
Yeah, I children's remainders are very significant to me. There are a lot of people who feel that books are too expensive, and I want to make sure that they don't have that objection. So I always I'll have a couple of tables outside on the sidewalk where I'll have children's books for $2, $3, $4. So people who are walking past who might not want to step inside of a bookstore feel like, oh well, this is practically free, and then they'll come in.
Right.
There are a lot of people that don't want to go into a bookstore. Some people have difficulty reading, and so they feel intimidated by books. Books remind them of classroom experiences that were embarrassing for them.
Right.
And so that's that's distressing, that people feel that they're not welcome in their local bookstore, among books. And there are a lot of wonderful books that people that don't feel comfortable reading might like to encounter. Graphic novels, zines. There's whole genres of books that don't demand high level reading skills. So I would like to try to encourage people to engage with books, and children's remainder books, baby books for $3, kind of break through that sort of self denigration that people
Right.
with difficulty reading will go
So
through.
jargon check, if you're wondering what remainders are when a publisher kind of has a book that's not selling and they kind of just get rid of it. They get rid of 10,000 copies and they sell it to pretty much a liquidation service who is a remainders seller. And then the remainders seller sells it at a deep, deep discount in their own catalog and their own sales effort. And sometimes you can find some real gems in the remainders section. I think Andy is getting up to show us some real gems. But when you want to, you can find something great for a couple of bucks in a new condition, and it's a remainders. Now, Andy, you're saying you have a lot of children's remainders. I see. Yes. Look at that. Mint condition. I'm new here. Great.
So there's some good ones.
Oh yeah, Rad American History. Nice.
$8.98, yeah. And here's a graphic novel section, which is an important section for us. And we specialize in this wonderful magazine.
Yes, our mutual friend Seth. Yes.
I believe you were once the publisher. Is this true?
No. Seth was always the publisher of World War III. I was an advertiser for him, so I've helped him out as an advertiser. But I was Seth's publisher personally for his book, You Don't Have to Fuck People Over to Survive.
Yes.
Which I reprinted when the original publisher didn't keep it in print. So yeah, I was Seth's publisher. There you have it. What a great visual. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Andy Laties with the book right at hand. What a great bookseller. He's got the book that you're looking for right there, right away. Yeah.
So anyways, to fuck people over to survive. And
yes.
So Sander, you published this book?
That's right. That's right. Whose edition is that on the spine there?
This is currently AK Press.
Well, AK picked it up. It happens. Not everything I did 20 years ago is still in print as the way I did it with Soft Skull or with Vox Pop. But the great books get reprinted by other great indie presses like AK or Seven Stories or Andy Laties editions.
Yeah.
Listen, speaking of great publishers, and that's my next question. I remember when I was a bookseller with Vox Pop 18 years ago discovering Microcosm, this, young radical punk rock publishers out of Midwest, and they had a great book called Making Stuff and Doing Things, which is like a handbook on crafts and DIY art. And I just was like, you fall in love with a publisher and you just want to sell or read everything that they do. And oh, that's right, that's right. They also did, Microcosm grew up and did their own kind of rebel bookseller kind of book, didn't they? Tell us about these books.
Okay, Danny Kane is a poet and high school English teacher who took on the task of stabilizing a legendary bookstore in Lawrence, Kansas, the Raven Bookstore. And he ran this bookstore for, I think, 7 or 8 years, during which time he deployed his writing skills to do 2 really significant books, How to Resist Amazon, and also which is very good analysis of the problems for American society and for the world of having the Amazon.com so dominant in so many different industries. And then this one is also terrific. It's a series of profiles of important bookstores.
Read the title, Andy. Read the title. For those on the podcast, read the title out loud, please.
How to Protect Bookstores and Why, the Present and Future of Bookselling, and also How to Resist Amazon and Why, the Fight for Local Economies, Data Privacy, Fair Labor, Independent Bookstores, and the People-Powered Future.
Great. And I can personally tell you the first book is great. I've read the first book. I remember grabbing it and being like, oh, Microcosm is still around 20 years later and doing great. So
yeah, Microcosm is admirable for many reasons. And one of them is that they do not sell on Amazon. They're a very rare publisher who refuses to provide their books for sale directly by Amazon.
Right. Well, we just did a Quaker event at our Quaker meeting, and I decided to source the books through an indie bookseller, actually and who had an Ingram account, so that we didn't have to go through Amazon, because Amazon is a defense contractor and Jeff Bezos has bent the knee to fascism and hasn't been a part of standing up to fascism. So yeah, and my wife just now was saying to me, all right, I need to buy an ice scraper. Now, how the hell do I buy an ice scraper online if we're going to try to boycott Amazon as a family now? And I said, well, she was like, maybe Ace Hardware, and then she was like, it's $20 for shipping on Ace Hardware. So, and we're looking. But I actually, as a carpenter and as a contractor these days, we've also been getting hardware at some other interesting alternatives to Amazon. So it is possible. Difficult. The ice scraper thing is still pending, but
Amazon has its fingers in everything, and
Are there other publishers like Microcosm that try to boycott Amazon and not feed the beast, or are they a rarity?
They are, yeah. I mean, Educational Development Corporation, EDC, which is the American publisher for Usborne books, was not selling on Amazon, and they made a really big deal about it. They did it for about 10 years, and they no longer exist. The Usborne books are now being distributed by a mainstream publisher, and they're now available on Amazon. So
putting the Amazon question aside, what are some other great new independent presses that you admire today?
Eris, ERIS, is a very interesting project. I've forgotten the name of the publisher now. I'd have to look it up. He does reprints of classic, mostly left-wing and literary essays in a $6 edition, and he does limited edition art publishing for $5,000, and he does new nonfiction and new literature. It's wonderful. I mean, I love the way that are you looking him up? ERIS?
I am. I'm looking him up right now. In fact, I could, if you want to do
Alex Stavrakis.
Alex Stavrakis.
Yes. And he started a magazine 15 years ago called Bedeutung, and he's a translator and a critic, and this Eris Press it's a kind of innovation that, and you can sort of see you can sense the business structure underneath it, that he's doing things that are out of copyright, but he's also doing original art. And I love that kind of creativity. And, you know, the aesthetic here.
Wait, I got it. Wait, Randy, look at your screen. I got it on screen share. See that?
Yes. Yeah. Very good. Yeah. So that's kind of fun. I think that if you're going to be a publisher, you've got to innovate. You gotta, okay, see what I have done with, for instance, here we have an Eris gem. This is a Stefan Zweig short story called The Invisible Collection. And you see it's just staple bound. And
is this all like out of print? Is that how he's getting it? He's getting it because it's out of print. It's
100-year-old short story.
No copyright. It's all public domain.
Right. And the topic of it is the German inflation after World War I. And I have merchandised here next to a collection of banknotes from the German inflation after World War I. So you can buy a whole stack of banknotes from me, and they are the very banknotes which document what happened in the story. That's what I like to do. I would like to inspire people to kind of travel down a pathway that they didn't know was possible. Look at this. You can own this worthless money from Germany in 1921.
It's so sad, Andy. It's so sad.
Inflation. This is what happened when you get real inflation.
Yeah.
And everything gets lost. And there's Stefan Zweig telling the story of what it was like.
Right.
That's thanks to Alex Stavrakis, who decided to make this wonderful little short story. I love this story.
Nice.
So my job as a bookseller is to engage with all these opportunities to tell stories, and so that's really fun for me.
Hey, since we did a screen share on the Eris press, let's do it again. I got Microcosm's web page up here too, so we could just give them a little equal time on screen.
Now, Microcosm is so brilliant as a zine distributor. They not only publish, they also have thousands of independently produced zines, which are the ultimate in small press publishing. And there are a lot of zinesters who depend on Microcosm as a key to getting into people's hands.
Right. Here we are on their zine page too. So that's pretty cool.
It's just great. I think that, you know, places like Microcosm, another example is AK Press, who not only publish, but also distribute for other very small publishers, really do a service to the public, because they make it possible to get distribution. If you're a small publisher, distribution is a terrible problem. And finding a specialty distributor like AK or Microcosm can be very important for you.
Totally. Great.
And they help bookstores as well. I mean, you know, Vox Pop can have an account with AK Press and with Microcosm and utilize them as a way to distribute the work of hundreds of different publishers conveniently. And then
here's something that I find baffling, and this is the challenging part of the business. So we just did this Quaker event around George Fox, Truth of the Heart, great book, especially if you're of a spiritual bent and you're maybe interested in Quakerism. And the book, the mechanics of the economics here are baffling, because the book is $25 retail. It's on sale on the Amazon evil website for like 15, and you said, hey, I can get it for you, I can help you out as a friend, and I'll sell it you can basically, you got it to me from Ingram at a 30% discount, so $25 times 0.7, so that means basically that's $17.50. So I don't know how Amazon is selling a book at 15 a unit when we the wholesalers can only get it for $17.50 per unit from the wholesaler, right? So we're supposed to sell it for 25 full price and compete with Amazon, when they can sell it for 15? I mean, how does that frickin' work? How does that, this is the evil of the system, and the economics of the system blows my mind.
Yeah, well, there's a couple of possibilities. One is that the publisher, that in that case, if I or you had ordered it directly from the publisher and not from a distributor, that we could have gotten a 50% discount. So
Right.
it's conceivable that that's what's happening, that Amazon is getting it for $13 and selling for $15. Another thing that could be happening is that there's dynamic pricing going on, so that when you go onto the Amazon website and it looks like it's $15, but somebody else goes onto the Amazon website and it looks like it's $21 or $25. Amazon doesn't display the same prices to every customer. They have cookies. They look and see who, they can tell who's shopping with them. So Amazon has, everybody has a unique experience with every single product with Amazon. Amazon has dynamic pricing. And the other thing is that it's possible Amazon is losing money on selling a particular product at a particular time for some strategic reason that is opaque to us.
That's called a loss leader, when you sell something to get somebody in the store, right?
Yes, and that's, so the entire book selling function on Amazon was designed as a loss leader function. Amazon was created with the objective of being an everything store.
Everything store, right?
And what the concept back in the mid 90s that the founder of Amazon had was that books are a way to gather data on the interests of the customer base. So you can tell what people might want to buy by looking at what books they bought. So you can then sell advertising information, and you can benefit by knowing how to market to each individual based on what books they buy, because books are show their interests.
Right.
And
The
so,
founder was a Wall Street guy. He was never really a book lover.
yeah, and he recognized that books were
A data point.
form. They're pretty cheap to ship. They're cheap to store. They don't degrade over time. They don't rot like food. So it was and there's terrific database, very usable industry databases were available. So he recognized that books were a mechanism to develop a huge marketing database for the public and then start selling them other stuff. And books remain direct sales of books remain a money loser for Amazon. However, he also encouraged people to sell the books that they had in their house. And so 10 million people signed up to sell the books they had in their house. And Amazon gets 15%. When anybody sells the book they have in their house, they ship it directly out from their house. And that is a great way to make money, just to be a platform where other people are buying and selling on the platform, and they take a cut. That's how they make money. Is they don't make money by selling books from a warehouse. They make money by taking a cut when I sell a book out of my house to you, and the transaction takes place on their platform.
Got it, man. And what about do you guys have an active website at Book and Puppet Company?
We sell everything in print. We can get anything in print. We can sell anything in print. And of course, we sell things both that are in the store and that we are going to take a couple days to get. But yes, we do. And we are among about 400 bookstores that utilize a platform called Book Manager, which is based in Canada out of a bookstore called Mosaic Books. They founded this platform about 30 years ago, and we find them to be very good partners.
Yeah, that's actually one of my questions. I was going to say that I ran into, on the West Coast in a tiny town in Washington State, I ran into an independent bookseller, and she knew about you from the ABA chat groups, which is the American Booksellers Association, and she knew of your book, and she told me about Bookstore Manager. That's the platform you're talking about, and I think it's like software that costs like $8,000 a year. Is that right?
Book Manager, no, it doesn't cost $8,000 a year.
No, maybe I'm thinking of a different software.
There are several different bookstore management sort of tailored software options, and you have to decide which one you like, and they all have different costs and products.
Okay, great. So the one that you're happy with is called Bookstore Manager?
Book Manager.
Book manager.
Yeah,
Okay, sorry.
but I have used 4 different bookstore management software systems over the course of my career, which, you know, my first bookstore I opened in 1985.
Right. And I
So
just let's hit some of the highlights. I know you were running the Children's Museum Bookstore at Navy Pier in Chicago, Eric Carle Museum of Picture Book Art. You were running that bookstore, which is up in Massachusetts. You were instrumental in founding Vox Pop with me. What are some of your other career highlights? But before we go,
I managed Bank Street Bookstore on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. I founded the Children's Bookstore in Chicago in the mid 80s. PovertyFighters.com, which was a fundraising website for microcredit. And I don't know, this is my 12th storefront. I've been kicked around.
well, my father's a PhD economist, and he always says, "Are you making money?"
Is that what he says? Yeah. Well, I would say that no, I'm not making money. I have made money. There are times when I have made money, and I'm not making money now.
Right.
But I do run the Easton Book Festival also. I founded that 6 years ago, and I would say that the book business is one where you can make money, but you cannot know in advance when you will make money. And sometimes you can make money for a while and then lose money.
We
So
didn't spend enough time yet on the book festival. So give us the skinny on the book festival. When is it every year?
So Easton Book Festival runs for about 10 days in October. We bring authors into all of the Easton schools. So about 8 schools get author visits. We have usually about 100 authors do presentations and panel discussions and workshops in 10 venues in Easton, Pennsylvania. So it's usually the 3rd weekend in October.
Okay, great. And how do people get in contact with you, Andy? What's the best way?
They can email me at sales@bookandpuppet.com, just all spelled out. And our website is bookandpuppet.com. And Easton Book Festival is EASTON, eastonbookfestival.com.
Great, Andy. I really appreciate you taking time to speak to me today. I think this was the greatest YouTube video I've ever done because it was so interactive and we got to see the inside of Book and Puppet. And is there anything else that you wanted to say that we maybe didn't cover?
Well, I did want to make a comment about the New York Magazine article about Sarah McNally.
Well,
And
good. That's good because I wasn't going to go there unless you had something you wanted to say.
what I want to say is that I read that article closely and I've thought about it, and I've decided that that article is a sexist article. I think that Sarah McNally is doing brilliant work running some outstanding bookstores in New York City, and that if that article had been about a man, that they wouldn't have made it so catty, and they wouldn't have described her personality and her relationships. I think it was, they kind of treated her as if she was a starlet, but she is a very accomplished businesswoman, and what she's done is really, really difficult, and she's done it really well. And I think that if that article had been about a man, it would have been a completely different article. And I think it exemplifies the sexism in business journalism and journalism in general. So I really I was very disappointed in the quality of journalism in that article. And but nevertheless, I do think that it's a very inspiring story. She started McNally Jackson at age 25, and it is a major bookstore book selling project in New York City, and a lot of people have benefited from her work.
And she knows you and she respects you, and I know that she's wanted to work with you in the past, and so she can be thought of as a disciple of the Rebel Bookseller.
I do not think that's fair. No, she grew up in a bookstore in Canada, and so
Right.
she started as a bookseller at 13. And while I interviewed her for Rebel Bookseller in 2010, so she makes an appearance in Rebel Bookseller 2010. But I
Right.
do not think that she was influenced by Rebel Bookseller. She opened her first bookstore, before Rebel Bookseller was published.
Uh-huh.
So we do know each other, but I would not list her as one of the people that was affected by Rebel Bookseller.
I think your insights to the article are very accurate. I remember how how much personal stuff is in that article, and also how the author of the article, the journalist, keeps on remarking on her physical beauty in a way that I felt was unusual. And
Now,
so
you wouldn't have seen that if it was about a man.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I appreciate your political consciousness and your sensitivity about these things, and we need it in this world as things coarsen and things get crazier and crazier. But we thank you for keeping the festival alive, and thank you for keeping your bookstore alive, because you are a beacon of hope in these times. And thank you for standing for freedom of the press and for freedom of the independent press. So thank you, Andy Laties, Rebel Bookseller.
Well, and thank you, Sander, for publishing Rebel Bookseller back in 2005.
That's right. It seems like 20 years ago. Can't believe it. This is the 20th anniversary. The 20th anniversary podcast.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Wow. Great, Andy. I'm going to see you soon, and I'm going to have you come up to Brooklyn. I think we're getting our 50K loan, so the wheels are beginning to turn. We're getting it from a cooperative credit union too, so it's not dirty money. And we're going to be open by May Day of 25, brother. So can you come to the grand opening of Vox Pop 2.0?
Oh my God, really? That's pretty soon.
Well, inshallah.
Good. Congratulations.
Thank you, Andy. I'll see you there.
Okay, take care.
Take care, buddy.